Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. So today we are talking about something every Android developer hears at some point, that is MultiDex. What is MultiDex in Android? When and why you would need it. So by the end of this video, you will fully understand that what MultiDex is and why the Android worlds even needs it. Okay, so the agenda for this tutorial is basically to understand about MultiDex, what is the purpose, why it exists, when you need it, how it works, and what are the final takeaways. Alright, so to understand MultiDex, we need a tiny refresher on DEX files first. A DEX file is the compiled bytecode Android that uses to run your app. It contains all your classes, your own classes, the library classes, the generated code, all of it. So the problem is that Android devices, especially the older ones, they have a limit on how many methods a single DEX file can hold. And that limit leads us straight into the MultiDex story. So in general terms, a MultiDex file is nothing but a Dalvik executable file which contains all the compiled classes, register based bytecode, and loaded by Android runtime. Now, so here the big issue, a single text file can only contain 65,536 methods, that is approximately around 65k methods. All right, so but the modern app, whatever apps that we are using these days, they depend on tons of libraries, right? Like for example, Retrofit, Firebase, Roam, Glide, Jetpack libraries, and each of these brings in thousands of methods. So even if your own code is lean, your libraries can easily put your own over the limit. So once you exceed that magic number, right, that is 65k, your projects fail to build with the classic DEX index overflow exception, and this is exactly why MultiDex was created. Okay, as I've mentioned, this is the total number of methods, and then large have, of course, they hit this limit faster to execute because it will have a lot of other libraries that will be involved. So what is MultiDex now? Okay, so MultiDex is basically a mechanism that allows your app to be split into more than one DEX file. Okay, so instead of trying to pack all the methods into one DEX file, the build system breaks your app into multiple DEX files, usually called classes.dex, classes2.dex, or classes3.dex, and so on. So this completely avoids the 65k method limit. Each DEX file will have max to max 65k method, and the rest of the methods, the remaining methods, will fall down into other classes.dex file. And with MultiDex, your app can scale up with more features and libraries. So it will allow the large application compile very normally, and the Android runtime loads multiple DEX file class methods plus library methods plus generated methods in an easier way. Okay, so coming to when do you need MultiDex, or when should I enable MultiDex? So you generally need MultiDex when your app crosses the 65k method limit, okay, that I've mentioned you in the last slide. So but there are situations where you will almost certainly hit it, like for example, the apps with lots of libraries, apps that use annotation processors like Dagger or Glide, apps with legacy APIs, apps supporting older devices below Android 5.0. So whenever the build system complains about DEX overflow, right, that's your signal to enable the MultiDex. So for example, like the Android minimum SDK version is less than 21, or you see this kind of exception, or you're using heavy use of a reflection or an annotation. So in all the scenarios, wherever you're hitting more than 65k things, and whenever you are getting any kind of signals, that would be the place where you would need to enable MultiDex. Now, before we deep dive into MultiDex, we should also understand ART versus Dalvik. ART is nothing but Android runtime versus Dalvik, and both of them basically were used or are used to generate the text file or convert the text file into machine level language code. The one that you basically, once you install the app and you are able to load the app, you are able to see all the features. So that is the place where the text file, which was later converted into .apk and which is now being converted into a proper application. So ART, I hope you know that it uses ahead of time as a technology, and Dalvik uses just in time as a technology. Now coming to MultiDex again, why modern Android handles MultiDex better? So basically the older Android versions used the Dalvik virtual machine, which is basically just in time as the approach, which handled MultiDex poorly, because what used to happen is once you load the application, then only it will start converting the .apk file into the machine level language code. So the startups were slower and the developers needed special support libraries to speed up the processor. But with Android 5.0 plus, the Android runtime was introduced, which is using nothing but ahead of time as a technology. So Android runtime has native MultiDex support. So apps load multiple DeX files much faster. If your SDK, minimum SDK is 21 or above, MultiDex becomes basically effortless. Alright, so you don't need for legacy MultiDex support explicitly. The startup time would become very faster in ART, and it will be much more easy for you to enable MultiDex or to use MultiDex things. Now, how to enable MultiDex? That is a good thing. Like before we deep dive, we should understand what is the process of enabling the MultiDex. So enabling MultiDex is very simple. It is super simple. If your SDK is below 21, you need to enable it in Gradle and add the MultiDex, add the MultiDex support library. I am enabling in as making it true in minimum SDK is 21. If your minimum SDK is more than 21 or above, just enabling it in Gradle this way is typically enough. ART will handle the rest of the things automatically. You don't have to add the dependencies explicitly. Okay. Now, app startup behavior. So during the startup time, the system loads the main DeX file first, all right, which contains the most important classes for bootstrapping your application, like application class, activities, services, etc. Then depending on usage, the runtime loads additional DeX files like classes 2.txt or classes 3.txt, and this will basically help keeping the startup performance acceptable even for huge applications. So the main DeX file, as I've mentioned, will be loaded first. The secondary DeX files will be loaded on demand, and functions placed on for optional performance, and MultiDex keeps startup impact minimal. Okay. Now, why to use MultiDex? Okay, that is an important thing to understand why MultiDex matters to us. So folks, MultiDex is not just a workaround, it's what makes modern Android apps even possible. With today's ecosystem, it's almost impossible to stay under 65k methods without sacrificing important libraries or features. Okay, so MultiDex lets you keep your app modular, scalable, and future-proof. So this is how these are the pointers which tells you that why MultiDex matters. It will allow large apps to scale. It will let you use your modern libraries. It will avoid build failures. It will enable modular features, and it will support enterprise scale projects. Okay. Now, this is what MultiDex is all about, and this is the quick summary. A single DeX file can store only 65k methods. A MultiDex solves that by splitting your app into multiple DeX files. Modern Android handles it very efficiently, and enabling it is usually a one-line change. So don't be scared of MultiDex. It's just a natural part of building bigger Android applications. Okay, It is very easy to enable. Just one line, enable it, and that's it. It will handle everything automatically. And since it is using ART as a technology which is ahead of time, it will make things much more efficient for you without hampering or without, what we used to call is like lagging of the application. It will make things much more easier for you. Okay, so that's it, guys. I mean, I hope you have understand exactly when to use or why, what is the purpose of MultiDex. And if you want me to create more videos on specific topics, do let me know in the comment section. I will be happy to do it. Have a great learning ahead, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.